Of course, true science fiction is always a possibility. It lives in the realm of what could be real. And this block you just saw, Someday, addresses just that in a variety of ways. And we have filmmakers from 3 of these films who have given us the gift of great art today. We would love to invite the filmmakers of The Eddystone, New Human, and Tendency up on stage, please. While they come up on stage, we also want to thank each and every one of you for giving them all an ear to their voice. It's very important, especially in this day and age. We need to keep four-wall cinema alive. So please give all of yourselves one round of applause as well. Thank you. All right. So, before we talk some cinema, let's go down the row really quick. Let's give a nice introduction, which film you are a part of, and of course, help them out with another round of applause. Let's go.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Kat. I'm the writer, director, and editor of New Human. It's the film with the woman and her clone.
Hey everyone, my name is Axel. I'm Kat's brother, and I co-produced and assistant directed New Human.
Hi, I'm Joss Ettrick, and I'm the solo filmmaker for The Eddystone.
My name is Tony, and I am the writer and director of Tendency.
Thank you. My name is Reed Emmons, and I'm also the writer, and I was Chris Glasser in Tendency.
Let's go, Glasser. My name is Steven. I'm one of the producers of Tendency.
So, of course, we have quite the audience tonight, so I won't keep these questions too long here, but I wanted to start chronologically, if we could.
Yep, fair enough, fair enough.
Joss, your film fits so perfectly into the science fiction block, considering you approach your subject matter with the whimsy of I have to say, like a Jules Verne novelization. And as we know, the majority of Verne was science fiction until it eventually wasn't. And that being said, what led that subject matter to be the thesis that you chose for your film?
I think for me, it was a way in which folks of the past look at the future. The whole thing was basically a love letter to a mad genius of the 1700s, Henry Winstanley, who basically just created these fantastical devices and worlds, and eventually the tower that would save a ton of lives and also be his own undoing.
And that being said, this can be seen as a pretty tragic case, especially for the many iterations this lighthouse went under on the Eddystone. Once they eventually got it right, we were much, much past the days of Winstanley's hay. But what led you to address it in such a fantastical and this brightness of a million suns? Because otherwise, you could have adapted this in many ways, so it's very interesting.
I think when talking about a builder and the works that we make to try and build a better world, I ended up just turning towards a constructed world in and of itself, making the whole world its own construction, having it building itself, destroying itself, and keeping all of those pieces together, I think helps tell the story of the value of the things we create.
And the approach to your animation was absolutely beautiful. I think we can all agree on that. And not just gorgeous, but very unique. And when going about that, what played into that very striking burned image?
I mean, it was more the necessity of being a single filmmaker, having this be my thesis film. I was working with the tools that I had and the opportunities presented to me. It started out with the model of Win Stanley himself, and I was struggling over how to capture this person, and eventually ended up folding them out of essentially digital origami, and the whole world just kind of built from that.
Absolute success in every level. It's just such a beautiful film, and playing off the idea of world building. Kat and Axel, New Human. I gotta say that. Well, first off, welcome from the far land of Escondido.
Thanks. It was a long journey here, so we're pretty tired.
Always have to have some North County filmmakers in with us, and any film that can visually mystify us through what you may believe could be outside, but you understand everything contextually through a great script and a fantastic plot line that you reach A to B everyone's on the same wavelength. We understand what's going on, even though we don't get to see it. That's a true feat in itself.
Thank you so much. That's so nice.
Well, it leads to the question of how did you went about a very universally understood topic, very important crisis, but you presented it in a very personal manner. It felt very, very, very personal inside. What was the inspiration for that, and what led you to tackle this topic?
Thanks for the question and the really nice compliments. Really, the initial spark of the idea was, what if a woman falls in love with her clone? And like I said, that was the initial spark, but as you start world building for a story like that, you start realizing, like, wait, like, how did they get clones, and where in the future are we? And then as that was happening, I was like, oh, this story is deeper than but a love story, which is what it kind of started out as, which I feel like hopefully you can kind of get hints of that. But it was like, okay, I thought it would be interesting to tell an important story in an entertaining way, because some of my favorite films are dealing with very real subject matter, but they're still fun, and they still are entertaining, is an art of movies. So that's kind of how it started.
And of course, we're living in an age where we're all very apprehensive to the idea of encroaching AI and how many systems control different aspects of life these days. And it was very interesting to see a take on that idea and approach it with such nurturing trust.
That reminds me to add to that. Yeah, exactly. Something that I also thought was interesting was when I wrote this back in 2019, I was still in film school at San Diego State, and it was going to be my thesis film. But COVID hit, and obviously that ended up not happening until last year, which is when we finally filmed it. Well, end of 2024. But that was kind of before ChatGPT got big and really the explosion of AI and all of this stuff. So when I wrote it, I was trying to go about it. So many movies are like, oh, the clones and the technology are the bad guys. But I'm like, but who made that? Like, who is really the bad guy in this sense? So I was trying to explore it through a different lens.
And of course, the massive undertaking and huge achievement of a dual role must have affected every aspect of production and been, quite the process. To both of you, how would that have been? Some examples of how you went about actually capturing what you did in the process that it required.
That was one of the scariest parts for me going into the production, was how do you make the cloning seem real and not cheesy, where you have we've all done it, on our phones or anything, just a simple split screen, which is effective sometimes, but I was like, I want to go further than that. But really we had a an amazing VFX artist who was like, yeah, I can make this shot look like we pulled focus on this camera. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. We had like maybe a full day of testing. It was also, thanks to the team, I have to shout out the entire crew. It was also very small, mostly San Diego based, so thank you to them. But VFX artists to make it seem, when you're in a scene, sometimes you want to go to a wide or something, so I was like, I want to have that little bit, so having him be able to pull that off, and then also a double. So we have one lead actor, Frida Villeda. She's a San Diego based artist. She obviously did an amazing job, but she was acting with a person that we cast it was like her height, her short hair, and that obviously did a lot to get like over the shoulders and whatnot. Yeah.
And to Axel.
Yeah, just to speak more on that, it was a 3-day shoot. We did shoot up in San Pedro in LA, so we had to transport mainly the whole San Diego cast from here to there. But that was also, assistant director-wise and producer-wise, I kind of had to just shift my attention to making sure both Frida and the body double actress were ready, the costume changes were on time, and it was only 3 days that we had in that location, so everything had to be done pretty much on time. And it's just a matter of once you're there, just making sure the marks that you have set up beforehand, thanks to pre-planning, are hit. And luckily, not every day is smooth on set, but I have to say the stars are aligned because there was no massive hindrance or anything that stopped us or put us behind almost at all.
And that is such a rare thing you can say, and congratulations to that, truly.
Thank you.
And you mentioned body doubles, and speaking of body doubles, or bodies in general, Tony and crew, first off, congrats to such an applause for a premiere.
Thanks, yeah.
This film, aesthetically, visually, cerebrally, churns so many gears in everyone who had viewed it. And this film, it really deals with this real modern issue of the loss of one's identity while in the struggle of just trying to stay afloat, this unfair struggle, this day to day. But also touches on this allegorical kind of connection of data breach and of identity theft, and you don't know where any of that goes once it's gone. And much like the characters in this film don't know what's going on when they are a host, it is such a brilliant way to address such a universally felt topic. And how did you land on such an important issue and present it in that means?
Yeah, thank you guys again for watching the film and you guys reacting that we did. It was really awesome. I appreciate it. I think for us, so me and Reed, we both wrote this together, and we had kind of been kicking around different ideas to work on together, and it started with I don't even know where the thought came from in my mind. I just had an idea, Uber for bodies. And I was like, I don't know what that means or what that is. I kind of shared it with Reed, and Reed's just kind of like, I don't know what this means, but maybe let me help you try to figure this out. And so it slowly became an idea where I realized for me personally, I'm maybe at an unhealthy level obsessed with the relationship of time and money. Every person has, either a day rate, a salary, or an hourly rate that someone gets paid, and we make this trade every day for our time for money. And, I don't think there's a way to fully avoid that, obviously, in this world we live in, but it became an allegory for me even to go, but there is a breaking point. There is a point when you've traded too much time for too much money, and you can't turn back the clock. And so those were some of the things that were kicking around. And Reed, I'll let you kind of share a little bit too about what you were thinking kind of when we were going through the development here.
Yeah, it was very interesting because he said Uber for bodies, and that opened up a huge conversation with a lot of people, because then it started to become me asking my friends, it's like, okay, well, if someone could rent out your body for 8 hours, what would be your price? You don't know what they do. And what would be your price? And it ran the gambit. Like, truly, there were some people who were like, I feel like I'd do it for like $5,000. I feel like I'd be okay. Other people like $400,000 or $500,000. I'm like, okay, so you're not okay with it. But what is your price? Like, what is the actual total that you would be willing to give up for? And I think that was the thing that fascinated both of us is like, yeah, when someone is in such a desperate situation that they're willing to do almost anything, how much are you willing to give over and how much are you not able to get back? Because then we came along with the idea, we're like, okay, when we get to the end of the film, we get the check of 1 year. And everyone is like, like, okay, he lost a year with his daughter, but like he has $1 million now. So like he can make a great life for his daughter. And then I don't remember which one of us thought of this, but we were typing it up and we're like, what if another check prints though? And then what if another check prints? And you just feel that visceral, because like you hit him with this and he's about to turn away and you think it's over. And then we're like, God, and that's sometimes how time feels, where it's like you're stuck in a job that you didn't know you were going to be in for 4 or 5 years. And then suddenly you're like, oh, I'm 30, I'm 35, I'm 40, I'm 40, I'm at retirement. And I didn't expect to be here for this long. Was it worth it or was it not? And that was something that we really wanted to explore.
Yeah, and we kind of had brought this idea then to Steven, the producer on this film, which I want you to share a little bit about how you came in contact with this idea, because you were pivotal in actually shaping the script even, and putting the guardrails on me and Reed. We were like going crazy. I mean, me and Reed had these crazy ideas. And
They needed guardrails for sure. Well, part of the beauty was, I think, it's a complicated idea. It's out there and it's really broad. Initially, it was so confusing in terms of, wait, where are we going with this idea? But I think the beauty of it is these two guys wrote a script that's so simple, so clear in such a big world, which is difficult to do. And I think once we saw the script and we knew they boiled it down to a couple of basic emotional triggers and points that came across in the script. The script itself, even the actors that jumped on, which, by the way, Reed wrote the script and then had to audition for that part because we didn't just want to give it to him. And he did audition and he won it, legitimately, which was amazing. But yeah, so the story was so simple and it's so well written that from a producing standpoint, it became exciting again, because it can be overwhelming if you think, man, this is going to be, it goes in too many directions, right? And so kudos to the script. It was clean and clear. Well written.
And sorry, kudos to this man, because we were filming it and then we had 2 different cameras. So he was directing camera A, and then Steven would be like, okay, in the edit, what if we just have like a shot of like the weird reflecting like wall thing? What if we have a shot of this? What if we have a shot of this? And then we didn't know if it was going to turn on the edit. And then he sends me the first edit and I was like, wait, this really works. Like there's so many little pieces in there that his brain just like saw that we didn't necessarily even see when we were creating.
Yeah, like he with the check printing machine, we actually had ripped apart an entire printer and shot close-up shots of it. And that was all Steven's idea and his crazy brain of producing, but also being creative. So yeah, pivotal part.
Sci-fi.
Well, we don't want to keep this audience waiting because this was a thunderous applause. So, who has some questions for these amazing artists? There has to be some here.
Yeah, just this is a question for Eddie Stone, and I loved how, and I'm assuming, perhaps I'm wrong, but it looks like it's CGI made, but purposely made to look like it's on more traditional media, and it kind of gave me vibes of like even like George Méliès films and things like that. What was the thought process on how you wanted to present it as like visually?
I mean, coming completely clean, the first time I tried to make the character model for Winstanley, I could not look at it. It was so deep in the uncanny valley. I was like, this is atrocious. I need to do a completely different direction. And so I went through a few different steps trying to get this character right. And the only one where I'm like, okay, I can work with this, this'll click, was when I finally was like, I'm tired of trying to render this realistically. I'm making this out of digital paper. And so from there, I'm like, okay, this entire thing's gotta match. We're going paper craft. Everything is getting paper textures, cardboard textures, everything is getting built based off of that.
That's so cool.
Hello, this is Tyler McLeod. As you may know, I went to CSUN and graduated last year with a bachelor's degree, and I'm trying to find a job in film, but unfortunately it's been like a hard road for me, you know? So, in order to come up with an original idea for a short, I have one question for her. How are you able to do that?
I'll jump into that one. I'll tell you what we did, and I don't think originality was anywhere near what we initially started with. What we actually did is we came together at the table a couple of months before shooting this short and said, hey, what are the best 10 ideas that we have, log lines, and I think we committed before the creative process to the actual outcome, and then we committed actually to the screening before we shot the movie. So I think committing to a decision before the creative is set is helpful. And sometimes in this process for creative, we just heard from the creative direction of your short as well. Sometimes it's just taking steps before knowing what the outcome actually holds. So I think a commitment is necessary.
I think real fast too. I think we overcomplicate these things so much, because if you look at a lot of our favorite movies and TV, film, like anything, they all boil down to one central dramatic argument, which is your time worth this money? If you love someone, you have to let them go. It boils down to something very simple, a central dramatic argument, and then the landscape that you craft around that and how you want to channel and funnel that story is the more complex part. So as he said, it doesn't have to be super complicated. It can be something as simple as how much time or how much money is your time worth? And then extrapolating out on that. And I think it demystifies a lot of it, where you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to find an argument that you are passionate about and you can argue both sides for, and then channel a film through that.
The last thing, I'll just say that last thing real quick. One last thing is that Steven, our producer, he told me I was really nervous about making one of my first films I ever made, and I came to him and I was like, man, I'm nervous. And this is 6 years ago maybe or so now, and I was like, I'm nervous about it. And he goes, well, Tony, what if you had to make 10 bad short films to get to your 11th great one? It's just up to you when you want to get it out of the way. And I was like, oh. That kind of demystified and took the pressure off of that stuff. So yeah, I always remember that when I think about, man, I don't know where to start. Hey, just get it out of the way, take action.
Rachel, at one point, you see her scream, "Min, get out." How much more of a plot line was there for Rachel, and even if it was never meant to be in the film? Was there kind of even just a round table, let's discuss the script for writing kind of idea for that?
Yeah, for sure. I think we had talked about his, Glasser, Chris Glasser's character's relationship with Rachel, if it was named after his mother that passed away, and it kind of was an endearing thing. But, something that was interesting in the film that did not start in the creative process at all at the beginning was the Mother Mary above Rachel. And everybody that we typically show that to, they always think that's really unsettling and funny. And it really just came from Steven and one of our other producers, who also was the art director on this film, Kel. They were just walking around our prop house and saw this Mother Mary. They knew that I wouldn't go for it. Because in my mind, I was like, no, it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't get it. So they didn't even tell me about it. They just showed up on set. I was shooting in another location, and we were working our way to go to that lobby scene, and there's just a Mother Mary sitting on top of the TV. And I think I was talking to Reed at the time.
Both of us didn't like it.
Yeah, both of us were kind of like, I don't know, man. This doesn't make sense. You write something, you get locked into it. So you're like, I don't know. I don't get it.
I was like, people are going to love it. They're going to love it. They're going to love that. It was the only thing that actually fit in the car in the prop house. We had so many other ideas, but Mother Mary was.
But then also that it was interesting because it was like, okay, this is something uncanny and weird, but then it's also kind of fun to hear other people's interpretation, where it's like, okay, there's a lot of capitalist greed that kind of hides behind this guise of like, hey, we're the good people here and you're doing the right thing and these people are watching over you and they're trying to help you. But to go back to Rachel, in my mind, she was always just kind of like an AI, like a corporate AI, and she serves one function and one purpose, and that liminal space that he kind of Because we never really, at one point we were talking about, hey, where does your consciousness go? Do you actually just like wake up? Because at one point we're like, is it in like a holding cell where you have to sit for like 8 hours? So then we're like, okay, if time is extrapolated that far, would he have visions and ideas of things that are happening while his body is out? We didn't really have like a full storyline for her though.
Yeah, we just thought maybe he's named after his mother, and then I thought maybe that's his first invention he did, was that TV before he got to the whole body swapping technology that he figured out.
And I think part of her character also grew in post, because there was the ability to kind of fill in the meat between the storylines, right? The story kind of unfolds, but then the edit kind of brought out all these opportunities to kind of bring color to the characters.
And then lastly, with New Human being a film with quite the hopeful ending, at least we hope, because this next journey is yet to be written. Where does your world that you've built stand as far as the hope you intended? Is it as bright as we're allowed to think?
Of the world of the story. Well, when I wrote this story, it started as an outline for a feature film, so it was kind of a backwards process of here is a larger world. I had a scene where she runs outside and the robot, they like meet, so there was just a lot of other things happening. But this was always the ending. I could see more happening in the film. Basically, something that could happen later is there's a pod that's coming for them and doesn't come after all, because some more it gets dark, not to ramble. It's a little darker, but I think there could be a lot to be told even if they are stranded on Earth, the human and her clone, for whatever reasons. The point is to explore what they do with that.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, and just to add to that, like Kat mentioned, it is a proof of concept film. So there's a whole world developed the same way you described. All the words, everything's intentional, and it's all to build this feeling of really being interjected into this character's world so you know what they're feeling. As a lot of us know, short films and indie films, it's very constrained on budget. So we only had 3 days. We would have loved to have more and shoot outside scenes with the pod, and as Kat did mention, it was written originally as a feature. So I was very impressed how that script can be then trimmed down to become a very cohesive short film that has a beginning, middle, and end, and leaves a bit off on a cliffhanger. But the idea is still there to make it a feature. It's just a matter of fundraising, getting the budget, and I guess me doing my job as a producer and trying to distribute and find sources for us to be able to achieve what we see, which is beyond just 15 minutes.
Well,
What he said.
you've all made fantastic works on the ideas of sacrifice, our ongoing and endless sparring match with nature, the idea of history repeating, and, of course, time is always money, but also the risk-reward sometimes isn't worth it. And brilliant, brilliant films. Thank you so much for not just coming here, but creating this great art for us all to enjoy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.